All right, I am recording. Ba ba ba.
I am recording. Ba ba ba.
I am recording. Ba ba ba.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the 605th episode of the Pokemon Podcast. It's super effective. I'm your host, Steve. With me is Hannah.
Hello. I am here. We're recording this early, so I'm trying to think of everything that's going to be happening in a week. Happy post Valentine's Day.
Yeah, happy post Go tour.
Go tour, Sinnoh tour. Yeah.
Yeah. Al is also here.
Yeah, and I was going to say, I had great fun in America this weekend. But it kind of ruins it when you beforehand. Thanks, Hannah.
Sorry.
Yeah, so this episode will come out probably the weekend after Go Tour, but Al and I and Hannah are recording now because, well, Al will be in America. Hannah will also still be in America.
I'll be in a different part than you all, though.
Yeah. So we have to record this early, so it's edited, and then it just goes up so we don't miss a Monday. So if there is any Pokemon news, there's a time difference here. We're literally recording this, what is it? 8 days early. Yeah. But that's okay. This episode is going to be our predictions / what we want / what we don't want for Pokemon Day, because I get asked that question a million times, and then we could be wrong on February 27th when Pokemon Day happens. You can go back and be like, oh, look at how wrong you three were, and that's fun in a sense. So no news this episode. Was if there is any crazy breaking news when this comes out on the 19th, just know that it's recorded early. So that's pretty much all this episode is.
Hopefully they won't be releasing news like less than a week before Pokemon Day. Like that would be
weird.
Not great.
Yeah,
okay.
Well, they released a little bit this week.
Yeah.
They released a little bit this week. It seems like we're starting to predict some of the things they may be coming out with.
Yeah. We can get to that. Do you want to start, Hannah, with what they released this week and maybe what that leads into for Pokemon Day?
Hopefully we're thinking of the same thing. I'm thinking of the card.
Yes,
I was
thinking
announced.
of that.
Okay, yes. They released or announced a Ceruledge card that I don't have the press release in front of me. But they will be giving out a Ceruledge card, at least in the US and in Canada. I know that for sure, that people will be able to pick up from a couple of different retailers. I believe it's GameStop and Best Buy here in the US, starting on something like the 24th or the 23rd, a little
23rd.
before Pokemon Day. And it has a little Pokemon Day stamp on it.
Yeah, and you can also get the card.
And it relates to the anime.
Yes, which is leading to my prediction, which I still think is going to happen.
the Rayquaza.
Yeah.
It's been the Rayquaza the entire time.
It will always be the Rayquaza. So yeah, the Ceruledge card you can also get from Pokemon Center. It says free with purchase. They didn't say how much purchase is. Usually that's like $20 or $15, or that's what my guess would be. I don't know.
I missed the free with purchase part. I was thinking of walking in and picking one up, but
I mean, it could be that Best Buy and GameStop does not care, and you can walk in and pick one up. I'm probably just going to go the safer route and just order something from the Pokemon Center and just not deal with humans talking to me.
Don't have to deal with any of the transportation then either.
That's true. They did. So yeah, Ceruledge is supposed to be in the Horizons anime. Supposed to be. It's not like it hasn't been out for a year. Who knows?
Yeah, how many episodes are out there for you now,
Al? 18, I think, something like that. Quite a few. More than the 12 that you've been getting in drops. So,
but we have
even when you get your drop, we'll be ahead of you.
We have seen the character that has Ceruledge, even in the little trailers and the first 10 minutes of the first episode they released in English a good time ago on YouTube. I believe the character is some sort of minor antagonist, like rival to the main characters. So I think it's interesting that they're giving you the rivals Pokemon.
Yeah.
Is this
I
like
could be wrong. I haven't seen more than the first 10 minutes.
I don't know what to say, right? Because it's not in the first couple of episodes, and it's like I don't want to be spoiling.
Oh, sure.
Spoiling
yeah, and then
something.
they did like a Dragapult Ceruledge short.
Yeah, little
that came
animated
out.
short.
Because Dragapult is a Gen 9 Pokemon. Al, without spoiling too much, is there a Dragapult in the anime? Is that why the short is Dragapult?
I don't remember one. That doesn't mean there isn't one, but it's certainly not as prominent as the Ceruledge if it is there.
Okay. Yeah, I think I saw a lot of confusion of why it wasn't Ceruledge versus Armarouge in this like little short they did. But I don't know, 2 ghost Pokemon, I guess. I mean, the poor little Gimmighoul gets stepped on, and he's a ghost as well in the in the short.
Always possible they were trying to involve one of the dragons for Year of the Dragon. Since that seems to be another thing they are leaning heavy into this year.
Yeah, they're doing this is not like a prediction or anything. I guess it's news that we wouldn't be talking about in the last week's episode, but so on PokemonCenter.com, they have usually done like, here is something you can buy every month. And so they did those like Funko Pops, but they weren't Funko Pops. They were like made by Funko, but they didn't have the weird eyes. So they did Pikachu that one year, and then they did Eevee the next, and then they did like the ceramic things one year where it was like 12 ceramics. And I think they did something else last year that I can't remember. The only one I like committed to was like the initial Pikachu ones that they first did, because they actually looked good and they were $15 or whatever. This year they're doing dragon pins, and they're $12.99, and they're really cool looking. And I think the first one is Garchomp.
Yes, the first one is Garchomp, and it has not sold out yet.
Which my prediction is we're going to get Brilliant Platinum, Shining Platinum for the Garchomp confirmed. That's why they're starting off with Garchomp. We're finally going to get our Platinum. No,
I love the idea of them releasing 2 versions of Platinum. We still have to have 2 versions. That's what we do.
They learned their lesson from Legends. It didn't get as high sales numbers because there was only one of it.
Right, we have to double dip constantly. Yeah, the Year of the Dragon pins are cool. Okay, but this leads into my first serious prediction, which is the 7-star shiny Rayquaza in Scarlet and Violet. They're leaning into the Ceruledge with the anime. We know that shiny Rayquaza is coming to Pokemon Unite, so they didn't give up on that concept altogether. And they have done a 7-star or just a raid event. I don't know by the time this episode goes up if my YouTube video goes up. I like spent 4 hours documenting every single Pokemon Day and what actually happened on Pokemon Day and what didn't. And for the last 5 years, there has been a raid event on Pokemon Day. A lot of those raid events were Pikachu.
Yeah.
But there was the hard Mewtwo in Sword and Shield, that everyone I think everyone loved. I've the Mewtwo in Sword and Shield. I thought it was cool. There was the Gigantamax, Blastoise, Venusaur, and Charizard in Sword and Shield. There was the Gigantamax Pikachu in Sword and Shield, and there was the Water Terra type Pikachu in Scarlet and Violet. And there was one more that I can't think of, but there's no way there's not going to be a 7-star, right? Like, I think we're all on board with that.
Yeah. It's an easy thing for them to do that builds up hype without them having to do much, right?
It's an easy pattern for them to continue.
That too. Assuming they don't manage to break the game with it again.
True.
But here's my question. I don't think we've had a Scarlet and Violet raid event that isn't catchable yet, have we?
That
'Cause we had
isn't
the
catch.
two-
I think they let you catch the Rayquaza because you can only catch one. I think they figured
you think
that
they
out.
will let you? Because interesting. I mean, it's possible. It just we did have the Mewtwo that you were mentioning, and there was the Zeraora one as well.
My
In Sword
my
and
guess
Shield,
would
neither
be
of them were catchable.
I think if Sword and Shield raids weren't like broken. I don't want to say like they weren't broken, but I don't think they figured out how you could only catch one. Right.
Okay.
So like
And
I
they've
feel like
definitely done that here.
if Urshifu or Glastrier and Spectrier, if you could only catch one and they weren't like weirdly programmed, not weirdly programmed, they probably just didn't think of that at the time. I think those raids would have been more exciting than like, oh, you can battle Glastrier and Spectrier, you can't do anything with them except battle them. And it's like, why would I even do that? At least with the Zeraora, it was like battle 500,000 Zeraora, and then we will send you one through Pokemon Home.
Yeah.
So this would be like, you can do Shiny Rayquaza, this is my guess, and then you can catch one of them, and then you can keep doing it for rewards, just like the mightiest Mark Mewtwo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I guess that makes sense, because if it's not that it's a particularly difficult thing to, if you have caught this, then make you not let you catch it again. If you hadn't thought about that from when you were initially implementing raids, it's probably more difficult to implement that later on. Whereas if they then thought, oh, we'd really like to do this one where you can only catch one, and the programmers went, why are you telling us this now? You should have told us that 2 years ago. And so then, well, we'll put that into the list of things to do for Scarlet and Violet, and that's why we got them in this one.
Yeah, and while we haven't had a legendary shiny like this distributed in raids before, we have had distributed legendary shinies in the past.
That's true.
So that wouldn't be a fully new thing. I just found 2 of them in an old cartridge a couple days ago.
I also like compare a lot of, if you don't play Pokemon Go, maybe you don't understand this, but there are certain legendaries in Pokemon Go that brings back people / makes Niantic a lot of money. And the number one is Mewtwo. Anytime Mewtwo comes back, like the amount of players just in a general area wanting to do Mewtwo dramatically increases. Even my mom, who like she still plays Pokemon Go, for years she was like, the only Pokemon I care about is Mewtwo. Like, I just want a Mewtwo in Pokemon. I'm like, what? This Mewtwo's appeared like 6 times, and she's like, I never got it the first 6 times. I want the Mewtwo. I was like, okay, well, let's go get a Mewtwo this weekend. The second Pokemon that I think is the second most popular legendary, just based off Pokemon Go, is Rayquaza. It like that also just drives people. Like, no one is running out to do Regice. I'm sorry, Regice. No one cares about you. If there was a 7-star Regice in Scarlet and Violet, people would be like skipping this week. No one, just no one. It's not happening for you, man.
You got to do it for the collection, but yeah, you're not going to be repeating it, I don't think.
And they've made people pretty tired of Ho-Oh and Lugia in Go specifically.
Do you think they've realized that though? Like,
I'm not sure.
When something
are we not getting them again in like 2 weeks or something?
I feel like Ho-Oh and Lugia in Pokemon Go is like Groundhog Day. It's like, what is happening right now? What is getting?
You can always rely on it to come back.
So yeah, I guess like if it's not 7-star Shiny Rayquaza, I don't know. I just don't think they're gonna do like Primarina or Sceptile or.
It's gonna be Captain Pikachu, or whatever the Pikachu with the captain's hat's called.
Yeah, he's called Captain Pikachu.
Okay,
I would love that.
Just
that would be
in Scarlet and
fantastic.
Violet, they've had hat Pikachus in games before.
Yeah,
I mean, that would be cool too.
It's not in the game data, so they would need an update for it. But I was thinking they could. I was thinking, like maybe they bring Armored Mewtwo in or something like that, and the same sort of
That
guys.
would be cool.
But
Bring that back.
it wouldn't
to
tie
Pokemon
into
Go.
anything.
That was a Pokemon Day thing where they introduced Armored Mewtwo in Pokemon Go, and then they brought the clone Pokemon.
Mm-hmm.
That was literally the Pokemon Day.
It was
before
Pokemon Day 2020.
Yeah,
It was. Yeah.
That's why almost no one has it.
Yeah, so I think for the 7-star raids currently they are going in order of Blaziken was Crispin's Pokemon, Empoleon was Amarys's Pokemon. So technically next would be Primarina, but that would be on pause for whatever Pokemon Day is, and then after Primarina would be the Dragon Sceptile, because we all know Sceptile is going to be Dragon Terra type. And then who knows what they're going to do after that besides like the rest of the starters. I do think they're going in order, but I don't think like they're going to celebrate Pokemon Day with Superior.
That does seem unlikely. It really seems like they're tying everything into the anime.
Yeah, I think that's their big thing this year. Speaking
Which
of the
seems like an odd thing. Sorry, it seems like an odd thing that they're doing, considering there's such a gap between Japan getting it and everybody else getting it.
Yep.
Yeah, I know. It's
like that feels like something they would do once they got simulcast going, and they were like, "Hey, we're going to celebrate the fact that you can all watch the anime all at the same time by giving you this bunch of anime-related stuff." But no,
unless like part of the anime is they're going to announce a movie for Japan, because usually Japan gets the movie first and then we get it later. And
yeah, because we haven't had one since, was it 2019? Oh, we did have 2020, but it didn't get released in the normal way. So there was that one.
There's that 2020 Pokemon Day striking again. Yeah, that was the Zarude movie.
Yep.
Yeah, which we got eventually.
Where they actually had a character. Spoiler for the Zarude. Hey, it's been 4 years for the Zarude movie. I'm going to spoil this for you. The darkest Pokemon movie to date, because they actually show a human character murder 2 other characters. He drives them off the road and makes them crash their car. That has never happened in a Pokemon movie. Then sometimes there's implied like we've hurt you from a character, or like usually it's like the humans hurting the Pokemon in some way, whether it's like chains or whatnot. But it is never a human character hurting another human character to the point where like the kid is like, my parents are gone forever. Like, what a weird turn in that movie. Also, that movie's pretty good.
Even I enjoyed it. You
It
can't
was
even like be like,
surprisingly
oh, there's a bit of ambiguity around it, because like the whole point of this story is, no, your parents are dead. This is how it happened.
Yeah. There's no like maybe this didn't happen. There's just none of that. It's just, I was like, my jaw was actually on the floor when they showed that scene. I was like, oh, that's how this is. Okay. Hey, that's
how
pretty
Pokemon
good.
movies finished.
Yeah, they were like never again.
Them.
The ultimate ending. Yeah, I think the Pokemon movies overall were pretty successful, at least in the East. Maybe not as much in the West, but I don't know why they would just stop doing them.
Well,
especially
my question
like,
is, were they planning to stop it? Like, was that planned to be the last one they've made, or did they have plans for other ones, and then when COVID delayed that one, they just kind of gave up? Like, do they have storyboards for other films? Do they have half-made, half-animated ones? I don't know.
Well,
and
what
would
is
movies
that
keep going with Ash, or would they keep going with the new characters?
Well, yeah.
I feel like they're probably. I feel like just because of the so much focus on the anime, I feel like if they're to show a movie, it would be the new character.
The new characters.
I feel like they're all.
That's how I'm feeling too. I don't feel like they would be doing all of this promotion with all of the new anime and then go to a movie with Ash.
Yeah, no, I think Ash is coming back, whether that's in like a cameo or a movie. But I feel like they gotta let it age a little bit. Gotta let it. What is that called with wine?
It's aging. That's what it's called. Yeah, you had the word, Steve.
Oh, okay. got a little. Well, what about this? They gotta let it marinate a little bit longer. There you go.
That's different.
Perfect.
You gotta age and marinate at the same time. Okay, so I think also, I'm sorry, I'm trying to tie everything together here. That Captain Pikachu is for sure coming to Pokemon Go for Pokemon Day. like that has kind of been spoiled at this point, since it's any
Yep.
because Niantic likes to push their updates like 2 weeks in advance, and then everyone just figures it out.
Yeah,
But I think they have to do that
That's-
because sometimes things get held up in the App Store, so they have to like put it in early so it doesn't get approved or denied.
Well, kind of, but I'm pretty sure this data is not tied to an app update. It's your game downloading it from the server. But you still want to make sure that that's like everybody has it. You don't want people hearing about the event and going on to log on, and then your game takes ages to get it because it hasn't downloaded that update. You want it to have it at least a few days beforehand.
Yeah. So to summarize, we have Shiny Rayquaza in Unite, Cerule Edge promotion happening right now in the TCG / the little animated short, and Captain Pikachu coming to Go. That's all anime tie-in. And
yeah, exactly.
they're gonna talk about the anime. It kind of now is, maybe it's like making more sense why the anime was delayed 2 weeks, because they wanted to maybe talk about all of it, because I think originally it was supposed to come out on the 23rd, which is just 4 days before Pokemon Day, and now it's coming out on the 7th, I think. So it's coming out like a week after Pokemon Day.
I wouldn't be surprised if the delay in the anime was just Netflix has something else it wants to get out that day, and it doesn't want two groups of people all dealing with those things at once, all getting on the same day to watch stuff. And also, you got to spread out your big releases so that you always have something exciting coming. I don't suspect it was changing anything or because of this, because I feel like they would have tied it into it this way so it's there so that people can get it when you announce it, right? Because otherwise it's like, oh yeah, here are all this stuff about the anime, and
Yeah,
in the
it
US
sure
you can
is
watch
gonna
it in
be
a week and a half.
Yeah,
Like, it's
exactly.
just
It sure is going to be interesting
weird.
to see the Pokemon Day announcements and say, this is the anime. All of you have access to it right now, and you've seen it, except for the people in the US who are going to have it in another week.
Good luck. Yeah, I think it, like, since Unite has come, they've done something in Unite pretty much every year. Well, oh yeah, so I guess for Unite, we know, so there was the 1 year where they did Hoopa, and then I think it was last year they did Zacian, and then this year is going to be Miraidon, probably, because we know Miraidon is coming.
Spoilers.
But we also know Cerule Edge, and that the Cerule Edge thing makes way more sense now. We talked about this last week, but technically 2 weeks ago with Greg, that like Cerule Edge is there, and now that they're promoting Cerule Edge so hard, I don't know if Cerule Edge is going to like debut the same time as Miraidon or like 2 weeks after.
It'll debut at the same time as the anime. In the
Yeah,
US.
there you go. That's why. But now they could at least announce that Cerule Edge is coming. They've done that before, where they're like 3 characters coming. Here's the first one today.
Yeah.
But now the Cerule Edge in Unite is making more sense as well.
But they haven't. That's the one that didn't have any data for testing, right?
Yeah.
That would be pretty quick to roll it out then, but we'll see.
I think they still announce it. I think they still say it's coming. Here's a picture of it.
I do kind of wish they were doing both of them, Cerule Edge and Armarouge. I think those two go together well as a pair, but they definitely got the most popular one.
Yeah. All right, I've talked enough. Al, what do you think is coming for Pokemon Day?
Well, so
or what do you want
think
at least?
Is coming, or well, yeah, because those are two very different things. So I'm going to say a thing that lots of people will hate is that I want a new game. I want a new main season, not like a new, like what we would call Gen 10 or whatever, but I want something. I think it. I mean, personally, what I want is another game with catching like Pokemon Legends. I want something like that. That I think has by far been my favorite game of recent times, and I think we need more of that. I think that's fun. Will we get that? Probably not. I think the current expectations are that if we're getting a game, it's probably going to be Gen 5 remakes. What I think would be fun if they did that, because the question then is, or do you do Black and White, or do you do Black and White 2, or do you do a Black and White 3, a sequel? I say you do both Black and White and Black and White 2 into one game, and you can play through them both.
They like money way too much to do that.
Yeah, but I don't think they would do that many remakes for them.
Well, they could do DLC.
Yeah, I guess, but they don't seem to do DLC as much in the non. They're still main series.
Brand new. Like,
yeah,
I just want to remind everyone they released Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl with none of the benefits of Platinum. just to put that out there.
And hopefully they've learned their lesson.
You asked what I wanted, Steve, not what I thought was going to happen.
But
it could. True. I mean, they could absolutely do that, where they go, "Here's Black and White," and then they announce after Black and White, they announce 3 months later, "Oh, and we're going to add Black and White 2 onto those games with a DLC." It stops it being, "Oh, we're just going to sell you both games," because then that ends up being $120 if you want both of them. The 90 seems to be a lot more palatable for people, especially if it's coming later on as well. But I can't see them. I can't see them releasing both of them as remakes individually. Like, that just seems like
a bit much.
Yeah,
I think my only pushback is like Black 2, White 2 are not Platinum, Emerald, Crystal. They are completely new stories. You start on the whole other side of the map, even when when you walk. So as much as I would like a Black and White remake as well, I think it's a little too soon. 2, I think it's more complicated than people are just giving it credit for. And what I mean by that is, like, I think just like Diamond and Pearl, it's easy to mess up. Like, I don't know if there's probably some people out there that like the fact that Diamond and Pearl is like a faithful remake. But I don't think I don't think that like it's particularly fun. Like here, let me just lay out like the start of Black and White, and I've said this a lot this week on my Twitch stream. When you go because Black and White takes a lot of like similarities to like the original Red and Blue, where like the P-Dove is the Pidgeline, the Roggenrola is the Geodude line, the Sock and Thrower, the Hitmonlee, Hitmonchan, which there's nothing wrong with that. That's never had a problem with that. I know some people did, but like never had a problem with that. When you start Black and White, just let me lay this out for you. I remember it very well. Route 1, your choices are P-Dove and Purloin. That's it. Route 2, your choices are P-Dove, Purloin, and Lillipup. Route 3, your choices are P-Dove, Lillipup, what was the other one? And like Timpole, right? Like, you have this very, very old style of Pokemon game where like that's how the first 4 were kind of built up. Well, like I guess like Ruby and Sapphire and Diamond and Pearl at least had like, here are new Pokemon, but also here are old Pokemon. Like, it just feels so archaic. And when you come from a game like Scarlet and Violet or Sword and Shield, which is just like kind of, well, Scarlet and Violet more so, or here, let's use Legends Arceus. So when you come from like the Legends Arceus and Scarlet and Violet, and you go like, here, go anywhere, catch anything. Again, you can't really go anywhere in Legends. There's 5 areas, but you know what I mean. Back to like, okay, here's the only route you have. Here's 2 Pokemon you can catch. Like, it feels very slow. Now, on top of that feeling very slow, you have the whole dream world. And I would argue that the dream world was so ahead of its time for Black and White, where you would like log into a website, go into your 3DS, say you're connecting to the thing. So if we're getting Black and White, whether that's this year or next year or in 5 years, right? how are they going to do that? Because I don't think they can just like ignore that part of the game. I think they have to either build a mobile app or a website and then somehow have maintenance. They probably put that on Ilka, like, hey, Ilka, you made Pokemon Home, now make a Dream World site. So I do think, as much as I would like Black and White, I do think, one, it's too soon. It took 15 years to remake Diamond and Pearl. It was supposed, it came out on it missed the 15th anniversary by like 2 months. And at least for Black and White, we're only on this would be the 14th anniversary for Japan, and it would be the 13th anniversary for the US because it came out 6 months later. So we're not even up to 15 years for Black and White. So it does seem a little soon, I guess.
Just a little
Possibly.
bit,
Possibly,
but not that soon.
Yeah, I don't think it doesn't sound like something that'd be like, oh, I can't believe you're making this. Like, it's so soon after it was released that I can't believe that you would be like. It feels like a whole different time ago. Gen 5, like, I think the Gen 6 being 3D and being coming out in 2013, like, and maybe this is a me thing, but that it feels like it's the second era of Pokemon. And it feels like everything before that was one era, and then we went into, boom, this is the second era. And this is pointless, right? It doesn't matter. It's just a term. It's just a thing. But
Sure.
I think if they were to remake X and Y, that would feel absolutely wild.
Which that game just celebrated 10 years.
This. Yeah, exactly. Like, I can't believe you would be doing this just now. I don't think I would feel the same about Gen 5 because it feels like... It doesn't just feel like a couple of years earlier than X and Y. It feels like a lot more than that.
We also know that in the DLC with Blueberry Academy, they did pay homage to Black and White quite a lot. And I know that there are some people speculating that maybe we got that instead of remakes.
No, I don't think that.
Hmm?
There's no way
not.
they just don't remake Black and White just because they love money.
Well, we know they have multiple teams going on in their company. Presumably the people who made Legends are the ones who have been working on whatever game is going to come out next, unless the teams have shuffled up quite a bit. So they've had a team that's made a game that we all like quite a lot, that was a very new, maybe not we all, that many people liked quite a lot. There was a very new style of game that we haven't seen before. I guess what I'm going into this Pokemon Day with is that if we see a new game, I want it to be something new and surprising. I've really enjoyed seeing Let's Go and Legends come out and be totally new kinds of things.
That is a good point, because I think we've had a few different ways of them doing remakes, or however you want to call it, right?
And they've all been bad.
I don't.
Legends was good.
Well, that's not. I mean, there's the remakes.
So if you,
Oras was also good.
Yeah. So
sure.
So there
it was okay.
So I feel like most
in retrospect,
of them,
it's better than what we got. It's better than Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl, that's for sure.
But that is a good, like, this is the thing, right? It feels like the outlier, in so much as, like, it wasn't trying to just do the exact same game again with modern quality of life improvements. It was trying to do, this is what we have as a Pokemon game, let's map that game onto this, right? It felt like X and Y, but in that world, right? It was a combining of those two things. It wasn't just like, here's your same style of Pokemon game that you had back then, just with more modern graphics. And then you go back to, if we ignore Let's Go for just now, because that's a whole complicated thing, they then went back to your more traditional, this is just the same game, but maybe with some quality of life improvements, not in this case, but also with updated graphics. And then there's Let's Go, which is a whole other thing, which is trying to rethink that a little bit, but still kind of stick to how the game worked, but definitely with a lot of quality of life improvements and some some would say failed, but some experiments with how you play the Pokemon game. We don't need to debate whether those worked or whatever. And then some people do consider Legends a remake of some kind. I mean, I think it's not a remake, but I can see the feeling of this is like taking those games, having a different story, and making it a completely new game. And it's experimenting with things in the same way that Let's Go was, but in a different way.
Yeah, no,
Yes,
same
I
and
mean, it's
different.
still revisiting an old region. It's not a
Exactly.
remake in that term, but if they just continue on and instead of doing direct remakes, start to do revisits,
So
I think some people would be excited about that.
So that's my question. Like, if they were doing a Gen 5 remake, which one would they do? I don't think they're going to do what they did with Oras, where they're going to go, here is a Gen 5, but like Scarlet and Violet, right? Like, I think that would be wild, because that feels like way too much work to do for a remake for them. But I also can't see them just doing Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl again. Like, it's just the same game, just with different graphics.
Yeah, I think people overlook that Let's Go and Legends are very similar games. I think they're both trying to accomplish the same thing. I think they're both games that are focused more on catching than they are on battling. I think they're games that are neither of those games have breeding. Neither of those games have like a lot of the social features that do accompany Pokemon games. Both of those games have mass release. Both of those games have a unique catching style. Both of those games revisit an old region and like retell the story slightly. Even though like they both have very similar like points. Like Let's Go wanted to like remind you about the Cubone stuff, and Legends wanted to remind you about like the Dialga, Palkia, Giratina stuff. Like, right, they both hit on certain things. So like, I think I could go on about how they're more similar than people think. But I don't know if you can do like a black and white version of that, whatever that is, without just also putting out remakes of black and white. Like, I don't think you can go like, here's a Let's Go / Legend style black and white, which whatever, like whatever that is, whatever that's named, I'm cool. Like, I'll take anything. But I still think you have to put out, here is just a remake of black and white, because we know that nostalgia sells very, very well. And
what if
like,
what if they just ported it though? Would that would do the same thing?
oh,
like if they
port
literally went,
white?
you can buy black and white on the Switch.
Oh, I'm out. I'm out. I don't want that.
You're
I don't
telling
think
me
there's
you
a
would
good
not
way for them to
you're,
do that.
You're telling me you wouldn't buy that.
No, I would, but like look, like Gen 3 fans had it good. Like they did get the best remake. Gen 4 fans in shambles. They they got the worst remake.
But they also got Legends.
They did. That's true. They got Legends.
We all
Yeah,
got Legends.
I still think like even in the development side of things, I still think it's like too soon. Like Legends is only 2 years old. So if normally how this works, yeah, Legends just hit 2 years.
Yes, but it came not, I mean, I guess there were a few years before that after Let's Go, but if you're comparing Let's Go to Legends and thinking of those as sequential games,
That was way more than 3 years.
Wait, between what and what?
Let's Go and Legends.
it's 2024. So that means
It was
Legends came out in
2019.
2022.
2018.
Yeah, and that was 2018.
So
Yeah, that was
So
2018.
it's basic. If you assume that Legends was delayed by 2 months, it's exactly 3 years.
Yeah, so it's only been 2 years for Legends. That's a whole year of development.
Just
cycle.
no, yeah, but the game's not coming out now. The game's coming out at the end of the year.
Oh, sure, yeah, I guess.
They don't announce a game in February coming out in March.
No, you
like
be,
that would
hey,
be.
They could.
You never know.
They're not-
March would be the
There is
March
no
would be some
way.
anniversary of Black and White.
No way they would do that.
No, I don't think so either. But like, but if you have so normally it would be that the main team goes from generation to generation. So when we're done with Gen 7, we start Gen 8. They said this. They have said this in multiple articles and interviews. When we're done with Gen 8, we started on Gen 9. So we're done with Gen 9. That main team is now working on Gen 10, which that ain't coming out. We can all safely say that Gen 10 ain't coming out anytime soon. And then
Hopefully not.
I hope
Probably
we can
not.
safely say that.
and so if the main team is working on Gen 10, then the side team would have been working on the DLC, which just finished coming out. Because who else is working on this? The side team has always worked on the DLC. They've said that too.
I don't think they'd ever detailed that, had
the
they?
main team of Sword and Shield did not work on the DLC. That was a completely Omori was not in charge of any of that. That was a completely different team.
Okay. I mean, I feel like you're ignoring Ilka.
Well, Ilka ain't doing no
Ilka.
Legends.
No, like I don't like. You can say you should be ignoring it, but I don't think they'll just go, "Oh, Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl wasn't dealt with well. Let's just never do anything with Ilka again."
No, I don't think so either.
How these things work.
Hopefully, if Ilka does another game, they give them a little more time to do it.
Yeah, so when was the decision made of like Ilka's now in charge of BDSP and we need to get this out to celebrate the 15th anniversary? And from everything I've heard from people who are close to the Pokemon Company and people who have been around the Pokemon Company is that schedule got messed up. That BDSP was supposed to come out in September on the 15th anniversary, exactly, to celebrate. And then Legends was supposed to come out in November. And when they just released sales numbers, and you can see that BDSP sold more than Legends, which is mind-blowing because everyone agreed that BDSP was bad compared to Legends.
2 games versus 1.
And there was 2 games versus 1. But the most important part is Legends missed Christmas. That's the most important part.
Okay.
And if I was a kid, or even if I wasn't a kid, if I was, well, I guess 15-year-old, 16, 14-year-old still kid. Even if I'm a kid, I'm not getting a game unless it's my birthday or unless it's Christmas.
Fair enough. Yeah.
And I think Legends missing Christmas is a huge part of why it's didn't outsell BDSP.
Yeah, because there was the huge online wave of everyone being super happy with it. It got all of the good online hype that one could ever hope for.
The main
for
complaint about Legends
game.
was it was ugly. That was literally the main complaint.
And it wasn't.
Look, that game
I
had
still
3
think
colors.
It was a beautiful game.
Brown, blue, and green.
Game. It was very intentional, a color palette.
I will go to my death with saying that game looked good. I can't see them doing that again. I can't see them going 2 sets of games, however you want to define a set, right? 2 different things. I can't see them doing that in that sort of time frame again. Like that just feels like too much to deal with marketing wise. Like I don't think
especially when they're still riding Scarlet and Violet.
Yeah. I don't think that it would. I think the Christmas point is a very good point, but had they released the 2 months earlier that they were meant to, I feel like Legends is still selling less. A very small amount of that is going to be because it's 2 games. I don't think the number's huge.
Yeah,
we'll likely never know. But I think that what people do is they go, "Oh, there's a new Pokemon game. We'll buy that Pokemon game." And then another one comes out 2 months later, and they go, "No, I'm not buying another Pokemon game for my kid." Right? They just got one.
Yeah, when they are full-sized, fully priced games, that's something that also makes sense.
I think. Go ahead, Anna.
They clearly want to go in new directions. They're doing new things, but the problem is that they also have an entire fan base that expects remakes, not revisits. And I think that Legends and Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl was kind of the point where they were caught between that. that they wanted to do something new, but they still had to appeal to the fan base that wanted the very much faithful remake.
And that's why you dump it on Ilka. I hate to say this, but I think it is more likely for us to get a third DLC for Scarlet and Violet instead of us getting Black and White this year. And I don't want that. If you've listened to this podcast for any amount of time, I don't want that.
It also doesn't seem likely at all.
No. I mean, so here's my other thing that I've been thinking about. I mentioned this in jest as a Black and White 3, right? But they absolutely could do a Black and White 3, right? That's a sort of thing they could do. And they could do that however they want. Now, granted, that doesn't give you the, oh, it's a remake crowd. It doesn't make them happy, right? But if you make it a Black and White 3, you don't compare it to Black and White 1 and 2 because you're not going, oh, it doesn't have this thing, it doesn't have that thing. You don't have to have the, oh, should it be fake? You can do it how you want to do it in 2024 or 2025. And I think you still get some of that goodwill of it's a Gen 5 game.
If they were doing a Black and White 3, and if they were doing a Black and White 3, I wouldn't expect it for another stretch of time because that's a whole different kind of game where you have to plan out an entirely new storyline. Which Legends did have, but it was a shorter storyline.
But bear in mind, those are different. That's not the same as development time, right?
Legends is also a really small game. Like, the thing about Let's Go and Legends is they're both really tiny games compared to Scarlet and Violet and Sword and Shield. They're very tiny. I mean, there's a lot of replayability there. Don't get replayability confused with, like, from start to finish.
Yeah. But I guess my point is, like, writing a story is not the thing that takes time in game development.
That's fair.
In a year, you could easily, if you're a good writer, now that's obviously a big thing, and if you don't end up with other issues, you could write multiple game stories in a year. Like, I don't think going, and as we've discussed before, they've decided this like years ago. Like, what we're talking about now and what happens this year was already decided years ago.
Oh, sure.
They're not making these decisions today. They didn't make these decisions last year. They didn't make them the year before. They probably made them before Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl came out, you know?
Yeah, but that's also why I guess I didn't say this. I don't think there will be a game this year. I think if you look at all the Pokemon days, which I spent 4 hours doing, that there are a lot of duds in Pokemon days. And some people will be like, oh, what about the year they announced the DLC for Sword and Shield? They didn't do that during Pokemon Day. What about the year they announced Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee? They also didn't do that during Pokemon Day. Like, if we're taking in consideration that all, like, they have like a 10-year schedule or whatever planned out for all their games, which I'm sure they do. That would be insane if they didn't, if they don't know what's coming down 10 years of the line. We also have to take in consideration that Scarlet and Violet and Legends and BDSP were all still being made when COVID happened and everyone had to move to work at home. So if anything, there's like, now they're probably finally getting back on schedule and back up to date. So this would be the year that they could probably get away with skipping something, which I think is fine, because you can't be a Pokemon fan and be like, man, Scarlet and Violet was so rushed, it's so buggy, I keep falling through the floor, and then be like, why is there not a game this year? Like, you can't have both. Like, you could say both, but like
So I think you're conflating two things slightly. So one is, yeah, you're right. Even if something comes out this year, it doesn't mean they're going to announce it on Pokemon Day, right? They have announced things not on Pokemon Day.
Yeah.
But
sometimes they announce at Worlds.
Both those cases, both of those cases, they still released something that year. It's been close to a decade since we haven't had something main series releasing in Pokemon.
And I think this is the year they skip.
I mean, they could. I just don't see it happening. Like, I think they've gotten into this rhythm of we're going to have a big release every year, and sometimes that's DLC, sometimes that's remakes, sometimes that's brand new games. But I don't think it's coincidence that it's been nearly 10 years. There wasn't a 10-year gap between any of the other gaps, and it's not a pattern thing. I'm not trying to do a pattern thing, right? I just think that's
but I
what they
also
like to do.
I also think they don't have to do a main series game. They can do a pretty big spin-off, and that could be something new, right? That doesn't have to be a Pokken or a Snap or a Mystery Dungeon. That could be something like a Pikachu kart racer, right? Like that could be like anything.
Pokemon Dash 2.
No, not that.
The problem is that even the biggest side games, spin-off games, don't sell anywhere near the main series games. But the interesting thing about side games is that they've done a lot fewer of them recently as well, and maybe that's COVID. Like we only got Detective Pikachu last year. I can't
Pokemon
remember.
Snap
There was
before
one.
that.
Yeah, and like we've basically been the last few years, we've got one non-mobile spin-off game, because obviously there's Unite and there's
Unite, Sleep, Go, Masters, Cafe,
exactly.
Remix.
So
Can't forget about Cafe Remix.
So, but even like, yeah, they just don't sell as much, like at all. Like the best selling side game was Pokemon Pinball at 5 million.
So you're
And-
saying, Al, I understand. I'm following Pokemon Pinball later this year. Okay.
and the worst selling, if we ignore the virtual console releases of the games, the worst selling main series game was Pokemon Crystal at 6 million. So the worst selling main series game outsold the best selling side game.
Yeah. That no, you're right on that.
Yeah.
I just think if Nintendo came out and they said, we're listening, we've heard you, we've heard the complaints, right? Like that was a real thing they said. And apparently Mr. Joe Sarabee and other people close to Pokemon have said, like, no, Game Freak has understood that they messed up with Scarlet and Violet, right? Maybe not messed up, but they've heard the complaints. I just think when you take all that in consideration, at a certain point, they have to skip a year. And maybe it's this year, maybe it's next year, because they're not going to skip 26, because 26 is their 30th anniversary, right? Yeah, so we're on 24. Next year would be 25. 26 would be 30. Like, when I think 30th anniversary, which is 2026, something I feel like has to give between now and then to make sure that they're not behind for their 30th anniversary. And I feel like this would be the year they would be a little bit lighter. I'm totally okay with a black and white game, a Gen 2 game. Heck, give me remakes of Gen 7. Whatever you want to do this year, I'm okay with that. I am just setting expectations that I feel like if there's going to be a lighter year, this one kind of makes sense.
One other element that I may throw out there that would make a lighter year make sense is all of the increasing rumors saying that a Switch sequel, like the next console, is going to potentially happen this year. And I know those rumors have been going on for the last 5 years.
Look, if I keep saying Gen 6 remakes, I will eventually be right.
But it's starting to feel a little more concrete this year. And I feel like that would make skipping this year in main series Pokemon games make sense.
Yeah.
I don't think Pokemon have ever cared about that. Like,
you're the one who wanted Pokemon Z. I guess that wasn't Z. That was Stars, wasn't it? I got my
Stars,
timeline mixed up there.
Right, rumors, and what they actually do are completely different, right? Like, it's just the Switch. They started looking like they might care, and that's when they came out with Let's Go. 18 months after the Switch came out, and that was the fastest they've done a new console, right? Like it was like Black and White were after the 3DS came out. Never mind Black and White 2. Like it just they've never really gone, we must be on the newest console.
No, I think Black and White was still before 3DS. Black and White 2 was definitely after 3DS came out, though.
How was it?
Because I got 3DS on launch day, and because I was poor, I had to sell my DS. I had to do the trade-in. And
This is a Japanese release date versus
Yeah,
not
I
Japanese
had
release date.
the DSi XL for Black 2, White 2, and that was brand new.
I think we still get one more Pokemon game on Switch before Switch 2. I just think
so.
there's too many Switches out there to ignore that your player base is so big. But let's take a break because I have to go to the bathroom, and then we'll do a short segment of maybe like other things of Pokemon Day that isn't main series, because we could talk in circles for this. But there's a couple other things they could be announcing. So we'll take a quick break and we will be right back. And we are back from our break. All right. Well, we asked Al what they wanted. They said black and white, and then we went on a 30-minute tangent about whether that's happening or not, which is cool. Like, if it happens, cool. If it doesn't, Hannah, what would you like?
I kind of said it in there. I want something new. I want something a little surprising. I want something that is out of left field that we haven't seen before. Not necessarily saying I will like it for sure if that happens, but I was surprised by Let's Go and it was fine. I was surprised by Legends and I really enjoyed it. I have much stronger feelings about what I don't want this year than I have feelings about what I do want this year. I know that I don't want Gen 10 because that would be ridiculous. I know that I wasn't a big fan of Let's Go. So Johto Let's
Game is so
Go
good.
is not what I'm looking forward to.
I don't think if they did that, it would be the same anyway. So my question whenever people say, oh, you know, what would they make a new Let's Go game, is my question is, what is a Let's Go game? Like, if you mean doing exactly the same that they did with Pikachu and Eevee, but with the Johto story and region instead, then no, I don't think I don't think they ever do that. Like, they don't do that.
They're never going to use the words "Let's Go" again.
That
hands
too.
down.
That too. They're not going to do that.
But no, that's a good question, Al. Is when people say like "Let's Go Johto," or even there was "Let's Go Sinnoh." That was like a thing that happened for like a year and a half. Like, when you say that, what are you wanting? Because sometimes people will say like, "Oh, I just want that style, but no catching mechanic." And to me, it's like that is that game.
Yeah,
the catching mechanic is that game.
And I also don't think they would do that catching mechanic again. I think the Legends catching is what they were working towards, and I can't see them going back to what Let's Go did.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I feel like Let's Go had a time and a place. That was when Pokemon Go was a new thing, and they were definitely jumping off of that, merging it into the main series games. And I don't think that's coming back.
I think that was like just good marketing too. Like, whether or not it worked, I think like slightly tying the name to Pokemon Go, like, it is a catchy name, it's cute, it has the tie-in you want, but yeah, I don't think they repeat that name.
I think it
ever
worked.
again.
It's the best. It's the best or second best, depending on exactly what numbers you use. Remake, if you count it as a remake.
Yeah.
In the Pokemon Go groups I have, that was definitely one of the most played main series games amongst the Go players that I know, the serious Go players that I know.
I think the only thing that makes, or I would have liked to see in that game, is just traditional controls. That's it. Like, even if you have to get past the first gym to turn it on or whatever, you can technically have traditional controls if you play on a Switch Lite, technically.
I think that was my problem, is that they had the functionality, you couldn't use a pro controller, and you couldn't turn it off if you were playing it on the TV. It feels like they were so close to having that, and that's an accessibility issue, you know. And it's like, I really annoying that you have that ability and you have that functionality and you've just disabled it for certain controllers.
Yeah, I remember the first time, this is a side tangent, I remember the first time I really thought about accessibility in Pokemon, which I think Pokemon is really bad. I think Nintendo in general is really bad at accessibility. But the first time I really thought about it was in Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon. And I was talking to players who struggled with the Ultra Wormhole stuff because it was dexterity based and it was motion control. And I play a lot of games. So like to me that wasn't a problem, but I think sometimes people overlook that Pokemon is really convenient for people who play slower, don't have super fast reflexes. You can like think about a lot of things because not a lot of things in Pokemon are action based. And what's funny is I'm saying all that and you can apply that to pretty much people who didn't like Legends Arceus because it is an action RPG.
Yeah.
And that's totally okay.
But that was what that game was clearly advertised as, right? Like you wouldn't look at that game and go, I'm going to play that if you have those issues. The Ultra Wormhole issue thing was like, that was like, here's a random thing in the middle that suddenly requires real-time dexterity to get through the story. That was the weird thing about that.
And you can turn off the motion control. But
after the first time.
After the first time.
You couldn't do it in the one that mattered, the one that you had to do to get through the story. You couldn't turn it off for that one.
So yeah, I think that's the one thing that bothered me about Let's Go was the forced motion control. And I think if that game just lets you use a pro controller, again, even if it was after like the catching tutorial or after like the first gym, you could like turn that on. For me, I love Let's Go. In like 10 more years when I'm like, oh, I want to go back to Let's Go. Like, I don't know if I want to pull out a Pokeball Plus to like throw. Anyway, side tangent. I don't think Let's Go Johto. Like, that's not saying I don't see a Johto remake in the future. I just don't think they ever use the words Let's Go again.
No.
Yeah, no. I mean, and some people have said maybe a Legends style historical Johto game, which amongst the Legends style games people have suggested, I would actually be okay with that one. I would personally be terrified of a Legends Unova. Don't want them to do that. Nope. But Legends Johto, I could see working out. But again, I feel like that's the team that's trying new things, so I don't really expect it to happen.
Can I push back on the Legends Johto real quick?
Oh, yeah.
I feel like they've told all those stories. Like in my head, a Legends, which I don't think they use that word again anyways, and I could go on about why I don't think Legends is ever going to be the word they use again. Isn't the story the Burn Tower and like Ho-Oh and the Suicune and Raikou and Entei? Like that's really the story that they kind of would tell, but they've told it so many times in so many different forms of media.
True.
And also, like, if we're talking about mythical Pokemon, boy, they use Celebi in everything.
Yeah, that's the other thing I was thinking of.
I think that's fair, but I also think that doesn't mean they can't come up with other things, right? Like, you can have a world before those things. Like, would you look at Diamond and Pearl and go, oh, there's loads of old history here that I'm missing? There's nothing that you're like, I mean, well,
I think that's why Legends works for Diamond and Pearl. Because Diamond and Pearl is a game based on legendary Pokemon. That's its whole thing.
Personally, I want a Legends Terapagos, but I don't think that's happening.
So, like real quick with the Legend stuff, like I can totally like if you do Legends, like an older style Johto, yeah, like I think that makes sense. You could even maybe make the argument of like Legends Unova because it's like, oh, what was the original dragon? How do you merge that together, right? You can't apply Legends to Sun and Moon. Like that game isn't about legendary Pokemon. It's not about like this old myth. It is about Ultra Beast. So that word doesn't even work there. And you can't apply it to Scarlet and Violet because again, that game is about future and past. So like just the word legend doesn't work there. Like that game is about paradox. So I guess you could maybe apply it to like X and Y, but that has to do with like, that's not even a legendary Pokemon. That has to do with a 3,000-year-old man with a Floette. Like, that's not even... Like, I think Legends works because Sinnoh is so legendary based. The whole thing revolves around either Dialga or Palkia, and then Arceus and Giratina. And here are 3 lake spirits that no one likes. Like, like there's just a lot of legendary Pokemon in that game.
I like the lake spirits.
I just think that
I like Uxie.
There are
like
other
Azel.
things there are other things you can do in the past that aren't directly related to the legendary Pokemon, though.
Yeah, historical Pokemon games,
Which
I
is
think,
why
are...
I think that's what people are looking for when they say they want a new Legends game. I don't
Yes.
think it's like, oh, we need to know about the history of these legendary Pokemon. I think it's we want a game that's set in the past for this
Yes.
region.
Which is why I'm terrified of a Legends Unova. But
Even Legends Unova though seems a little weird because one game is black is like futuristic, and then white is more in the past. Like you have White Forest and you have Black City, right? So like how, but like the like when you think about concepts of Pokemon games, like Legends, like to me the concept to me of Sinnoh is legendary Pokemon revolving around like Arceus and creating everything. And when I think of the stuff for Black and White, they even said what Black and White is. It's one game is about truth and the other game is about ideals. And that doesn't like, so like I'm not saying I don't want a Legends style game, but I just like they don't have to go to the past to do that. They can go to the future. They can go to the same time. They can go to 2 years before.
yeah, just
like,
a new story to revisit the old region.
Yeah, I think that's the thing. I think the most likely thing that continues from Legends is the catching.
yes.
I think
Here's
that
hoping.
I will they do a game set in the past in in another region? Possibly. I would doubt it, but possibly. Will they do the open area style that they did with Legends? No, they're not doing that again, I don't think. But the catching, they would change it up. They wouldn't do it exactly the same, but I can absolutely see that coming in a game. Probably not this year, maybe next year, maybe the year after. Who knows? But like, yeah, I think I can see that coming. I mean, personally, I would love it if that became the norm for Pokemon games, but I know not everybody has that opinion, and in a way, it would be a shame if they completely removed the traditional catching of Pokemon, because that is a thing that people really
But
like for
Legends
some
didn't
reason.
remove it. You just didn't realize it, Al. You can just walk right up to a Pokemon and do the traditional catching.
You forgot again?
I did forget again, apparently. So I would just like to clarify this as well, because I don't think I've been on since then. It turns out I probably did do it, because it seems there are some things you have to do to get to the end of the Arceus story.
Yes, I think there are some forced catching.
Yeah, which I did, because I completed everything in that game. I did all of the quests, and I didn't perfect all of the dex entries, but I did everything else. But I think
it's just not memorable.
I just liked it so much and didn't really care for it that it just went from my brain.
No, but I like the fact that you have that new style catching. And then again, talking about accessibility for people who are not good at sneaking or rolling or trying to get behind somebody, or they just want to walk up and catch it the old way. I think that's totally cool. And it's nice that that game has that option, whereas other games did not.
Yeah. I still think my ideal would be Legend style catching in the overworld. Then you had the option to go into an encounter, but if you faint the Pokemon, then you can choose whatever Pokeball you want, like in a raid. I think that would be
that sounds awesome.
Ideal.
Yeah. Yes, and I would probably choose that option when doing the Legends, because when you were just like running around throwing balls at the Legends because they were not staying in, that not fun.
Oh yeah, you know the forces of nature are in that game. Oddly enough, they have nothing to do with Sinnoh.
And Amorous
that's
does
clearly
now.
that. Well, that's the thing. That is clearly we wanted to put in an Amorous, and it just happened that was a game that they put it in, and therefore the rest of them had to be there. I don't really think it fits thematically either.
So we're talking a little bit about accessibility features. Do we think in any future games we're going to see any sort of easy, medium, hard mode ever again, especially in a black and white revisit of some sort?
No.
I don't think so.
I know that's something people have wanted, and I know it would help some people to have actually preset modes.
I think this is not any fault to Game Freak or anyone who works on Pokemon games. I think it's really hard to implement a good, easy, normal, hard mode in games. I don't think a lot of games do it well. Like as a kid, I know when people are always like Pokemon games, like Pokemon is for children. Why are you playing this kid's game? I beat Halo on the hardest difficulty. I don't know what that's called, like legendary or heroic or something. I was like 13 years old, and I did the like. If I'm thinking of what's a kid's game and what's not a kid's game, I don't know. I don't really consider Halo like a game for like 7-year-olds. But like, should I have been playing Halo as 13? I mean, it was like shooting aliens, like whatever. But like the hard mode, and this whatever, like this is not to say Halo did or did not do hard mode correct, because I think there was like 5 difficulties. Like I just
That's too
stood
many.
behind a wall and like kept shooting, and it was painfully slow. But as a 13-year-old, I had no responsibility. I had the most time in the world. So like, yeah, I was able to be like, yeah, I beat Halo on the hardest difficulty as an actual baby. Like 13 years old is like a baby. But it was just like, I don't think they did hard correctly, or like, but like I didn't cheat. I just hid behind cover and shot very slowly until the room cleared out, and then I moved on. Like that was the whole game, and I'm
The
gonna put
line
that on my
is
LinkedIn that I did that.
the line is also very fine between difficult and not fun. And so, like, would I play a difficult Pokemon game? Probably. But where's the point where I just go, "Ah, I'm just not having fun
But
anymore?
you wouldn't have to have it on hard mode. You
No,
could
you
choose
wouldn't.
the normal mode.
Yeah, sure.
And some
But
people
like,
like doing all of the battles everywhere all the time, constant.
I'm not saying that as a reason not to do it, right? Because I'm not one of these people that's like, because one of the arguments that people have for not having difficulty levels is, oh, if there's an easier one, I will choose it, and I don't want to choose it. And it's like, well, then
Just
you
don't
just
choose
got to
it.
be,
And that's like the
yeah,
people
just
that are like, this battle's so hard. It was like, you're just spamming max potions, like, or this battle's so easy. It's just like, you don't.
yeah.
You're the one spamming the
Yeah.
max, but like no one's telling you that you.
Exactly. So it's not like, oh, I can't trust myself not to choose the hard mode. It's more just a case of like, I'm not like, what is fun in hard to me is different to a different person. And so some people it's like, oh well, yeah, hard for me is just it, more grinding. It's like that. Well, that's not fun. I don't want to do
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
I'm definitely not going to choose it if
Exactly.
that's what it means.
I can say that I went through all of Black 2, White 2 on hard mode. I did it. It was not harder. And it's possible that they did it wrong, but they gave every gym leader an extra Pokemon. All the gym leaders were like 2 or 3 levels higher. They had like better move sets. I think they had like better EVs and IVs. But look, if you're a fire gym, I'm just gonna bring a water Pokemon. That's it. It doesn't matter if you have one extra Pokemon. I'm just gonna hit Surf one more extra time, and like. And I know there are like fan made games and all that stuff, and they're intentionally hard and stuff. But that you are in such a minority for those kind of players, and that's cool that you like that you like that challenge and whatnot. But I think like if you're But if I'm gonna say like, do I want Pokemon to have a hard mode, easy mode? My answer is no, not because I don't want the games to be harder or there should be easier, but I think like I just understand that time can go to something else, and
And
that could
that in the
be
games, you can already make it harder or easier for yourself. That's the other
right.
thing.
Yeah,
So I guess
like I made Scarlet and Violet harder for myself because I only stuck to water type Pokemon, and boy did I struggle with Iona. Like gosh, it took me like 5 times to beat her, but like everyone else pretty okay, but like her, who that was tough. But I had fun doing that, and the game was like, how dare you not have a grass starter? Like no, I went all water Pokemon. It was fun.
so. I think I'm pretty confident there wouldn't be a hard mode, like a harder mode than normal. I guess the question, when you were talking about accessibility, I guess the question then would be, would they do an easy mode, right? Which is like I'm not a lot.
They kind of did it for Let's Go.
In what way?
in like a parent or a friend or significant other could jump in
co-op.
Oh,
and
yeah.
then
Right, okay, yeah, and
I
that's
wouldn't-
and I wouldn't call
easier
that
for
an easy
it was for sure
mode.
easier catching, like that's for sure.
That's true.
I think
And because that game is catching, I feel like that's, you know.
that is, I mean, no, that's a good point though. That is a way that you can do that while doing something different. So it's not just like, oh, everything's easier. You actually go, it's easier because of this feature that we've put in that you can optionally choose. And
Yeah.
Yeah, but I
It's an
wouldn't ever
interesting-
consider that an accessibility feature if you're requiring another player.
Look, the amount of streamers I saw just hold 2 Joy-Cons in their hand and just double
That's
catch
true.
everything.
That was very possible. I think I did that at one point.
I guess the question would be what would be the purpose of an easy mode in a Pokemon game? In a lot of games, the easy mode tends to be like a cinematic thing where I'm in it for the story.
Yeah.
Right?
Mhm.
So don't give me difficult things because I want to. Are people coming to Pokemon games for the story?
I mean, Hannah is.
Yep.
I haven't played Baldur's Gate 3, but I do know Baldur's Gate 3 has normal, hard, and easy. But when they say easy, it is literally like, I only care about the story, minimal combat. And I know people who are that's why they're playing Baldur's Gate, is literally for the story and the choices and to make 2 characters kiss. That is like 99% of Baldur's Gate is like, who can we make date each other and kiss? And so that makes sense that they have a pretty ultimately like, I only care about the story, minimal combat. I don't know how hard the hard mode is in Baldur's Gate.
I tell you what you could do is a focus. We've talked previously about the Pokemon games not really having a focus option, right? The point of these games is to catch all the Pokemon and to be good at battling. You could do an easy mode where you remove one of those or you reduce one of those so significantly that it doesn't really matter. And so it's like, I don't care about battling. I have never cared about battling with Pokemon. I care about catching Pokemon. And so giving you the option to say, which of these do you care about? And you can say all of them, or you can say one of them. And that would reduce battling or reduce requirements for catching. That's the sort of thing you could also do, which would give you it's not, because like I'm a strong believer that accessibility is important, but it is also important for people in general. Like the best accessibility features are accessibility features that aren't just built with one particular thing in mind that never affect anybody else, but there's something that actually everybody ends up benefiting from. Is a really good way of doing it, because you get people going, and I'm not saying that something that only benefits somebody with a particular disability is bad,
You
but
read
I think
my mind.
I think when you're able to then make that, and it also advantages everyone else if you want it to, you get buy-in from normal people as well, and you go, oh yeah, I see how that's a really good thing then. Which, yeah, it's a bit sad that people have to be explained, but being able to take that and also give us another good thing would also be really would be cool. But
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of one way that I'd imagined Pokemon games going as a kid, where you could choose to be a Pokemon collector, or you could choose to be a Pokemon professor or a trainer, and you would basically have a role and you would aim to be the best in that role. And I guess in some ways that makes sense, but that also feels limiting to me personally. I don't know if that feels like a better thing to me. When we were describing an easy mode that focused on the story, that makes sense to me. That's something I would even potentially like, though I probably wouldn't do it. um, but having a game where you basically just say, hey, I don't like battles at all. I am going to be a Pokemon collector. I don't want to see any of the other things. I'm not sure how I feel about that.
Oh, I mean, play Legends. There's only like 7 battles in that entire game.
well, I don't think I would turn any of those on for my first playthrough of the game. But see, on my 4th playthrough of Scarlet and Violet, if I could have said, I want no battles, I would have checked that box so fast, right? Like, I was not, with the 4th playthrough of those games, I was not in it for any of that. I was in it for the game being done so I could do the raids, right? That was the point.
All right, not to force shifting gears, but I don't want this episode to be 5 hours long. I think for Pokemon Day we're going to get release dates for the soundtracks. We know they're coming. The Scarlet and Violet, Legends Arceus. I don't know if they said BDSP, but
I don't think they did.
I don't think they did. But Scarlet and Violet.
Isn't the BDSP soundtrack already out there somewhere?
Yeah, I think they gave that away for free. I think that was
Yeah.
last year's Pokemon Day, where you could go to a website and download it for personal use.
That was it.
That wasn't the one that was on the weird app that appeared for like a few months and then died.
No, I don't think. I don't think so. I don't think it was that. So the actual thing, I get this question all the time because I play Pokemon music when I'm like setting up stream or when I'm like going to the bathroom, and people are like, "Steve, where did you get the music from?" I got it from iTunes. Yes, you've heard it. Apple iTunes. They still sell all of the Pokemon music on iTunes. Pokemon made a deal with Apple at some point. This is why the Pokemon music is not on Spotify or YouTube. Oh, wow, look, I'm sure you can find it on YouTube, just not by Pokemon. I don't know how long that deal is. I don't know if Scarlet and Violet and Sword and Shield is going to go up on iTunes. In Japan, CDs are still really popular, so like you can already import the Scarlet, or you can at least pre-order the Scarlet and Violet Sword and Shield CDs from Japan. It's like 6 or 7 discs. So I guess the announcement would be, is it going to go to iTunes? Is there going to be CDs in America? Are they going to sign a new deal with Spotify? Like, don't know. Unsure. But I would assume they would be talking about the music for Pokemon Day. There has been, just to go through all the events, there has been a cafe remix. They talk about it every Pokemon Day since it's existed. Well, I suspect that it will be talked about again. Pokemon Masters, they have always done a specific sync pair. Last year was May and Latias. The year before that was Leon and Charizard. The year before that was Red and Charizard. So I wouldn't even be like, geez, at this point, Liko and Sprigatito. Like, who knows?
Probably a legendary.
Yeah, so
Or
I
it'll
would
be
expect
Or
Cerulege
Charizard.
and whatever the
So I would suspect Masters, new pair, probably 3,000 free gems if you log in today, 100 sync pairs like they always do. Pokemon Sleep event, I think we talked about that. There's no way they don't bring up Pokemon Sleep. They don't bring up how many downloads it has, how many people are sleeping. I have question marks next to these. Does TCG Live get any recognition / an update?
No.
I wouldn't expect it. I wouldn't hold my breath for it.
We know that the issues of new features in the old online app were not because the developers didn't want to do that, right? So I don't know why that would change.
No, Dire Wolf Digital did want to fix a lot of things. They just were not allowed to.
Exactly. I don't see that changing. The app is the app is. There might be some bug fixes at some point, and obviously they'll update it with the new cards, but that's all they're doing.
They did make a big deal about Hawaii or about Japan last year for Worlds. Are they going to bring up Hawaii this year? I feel like they can't bring it up without saying we've also done another donation.
Have people forgotten?
America, yes, because America moves on from things very quickly.
Well, that's the thing, and I can't see many other, like, because it's America. So if America isn't caring about it, I can't see other people caring about it.
Yeah, it's just not. And I mean, to be fair, I don't watch a lot of news, but like, Hannah, you can correct me, but I feel like no one is talking about Hawaii right now.
Well, there was an earthquake there yesterday, but pretty sizable one, mostly on the Big Island, I'm pretty sure. But I haven't heard anything about the wildfires in a while, except for my friends who live there, where, I mean, there are still issues. I'm still not super happy that Worlds is going to be there. but they'll probably mention it. They're probably excited to go vacation there for Pokemon. It's happening.
Yeah, it can't not happen. I think when they announced their initial donation, which I don't remember how much it was, that they said that this was the first of their donations. I think they said that this was not their only donation. So I don't know what that looks like. I don't even know if they bring it up just because it's a touchy subject.
I don't think they would. The amount they donated was $200,000.
Okay, 200,000.
Yeah, I think they probably know that the positivity of the people who are excited about it probably massively overrides the people who are still wary and upset about it, and so I think they talk about it and they go, "Hey, we're excited about this," and then they move on. They probably don't focus on it too much, but I think they mention it.
Yeah.
Like they're doing it in Hawaii because people love Hawaii, right? Like they're doing.
Well, they're
it
also doing it because it's halfway between Japan and the United States, and those are the two biggest player bases.
Yeah. Okay, yeah, fair. I bet that doesn't make the flights cheap, though.
Yeah, I don't think so. Maybe slightly cheaper than California. Flying to California probably cheaper, yeah, than to Hawaii. I feel obligated to go because there's so much Pokemon news there, and I like report on it and stuff. I've talked about this before. Like Hawaii has never been on my list of places to visit because it feels to me like a very outdoor touristy place, and I'm not that big of an outdoor touristy person. Like I like walking outside, I like seeing things, but like I'm not a beach person. I'm not a surfing person. I'm not a let's climb this volcano person.
You like playing Pokemon Go. The weather is good. There are ways that you can do it better than others. There are ways that you can go and support Native Hawaiians more so than big hotel chains, Airbnb, things like that.
Yeah. Like I'm probably going to go, but I have to look into like what is the good way to travel there. And I probably wouldn't, like with Japan it was like, okay, I'm going to arrive like a week early, I'm going to stay a week late because it's so much effort to get there, and plus like, man, Papa Pikachu made me work in Japan. Like I had to be up at like 6 o'clock every morning, so like I didn't even get to do the Japan stuff until after the World Tournament. But if in the Hawaii situation, I think it's literally go there, do the tournament, leave, maybe have one extra day for rest, and then leave. But yeah, I don't know if they bring that up. So Sleep, TCG Live, Cafe Remix, Pokemon Go. I'm sure they'll mention Sinnoh Tour being a success or something. Pokemon Masters EX, Pokemon Unite. Like that's a lot of time in a presentation just dedicated to side games, and I think they mention all of those. Like I don't think we don't. It would be very weird if they don't mention Unite, Go, EX, Sleep.
I just thought of something. So obviously, just to preface this, they are not bringing the main series games to Nintendo Switch Online. That's just not happening.
Oh yeah,
it's not happening. But
also, I did look up numbers for this because people think like, why don't they just bring the games? It should just be easy money. All 6 of those versions, red, blue, yellow, technically green, I guess in Japan, crystal, gold, silver, combined only sold 1.5 million. That's 7 games.
This is why I said ignore it in my thing I was talking about earlier with all the sales. But here's a question. What if, I don't think they'll do this, but what if they brought the second trading card game and translated it, and we finally were able to play it in English, and they put that on instead?
Oh, that would be cool. That would be really cool.
Yeah, was the announcement of the first one, that was in a Nintendo Direct, right?
It was, yes.
Yeah, it was a Nintendo Direct.
because that was in their initial Game Boy's coming, and here's a bunch of games, and it included the trading card game.
Yeah. So I would almost expect it to be in a Nintendo Direct announcement rather than a Pokemon Day announcement, if that happened.
Possibly, but we're probably getting that around the same sort of time anyway. So I could see. Well, I mean, I expect the Nintendo Direct next week. Maybe they announce it in that, and then they reiterate it in Pokemon Day the week after.
That's definitely possible.
Here's what I want. I don't care. No, I don't care about Black and White. Don't care about Scarlet and Violet DLC. Don't care about Johto. Give me the Chinese version of Pokemon Quest. I want that. That is what I want for Pokemon Day.
Yeah.
That game looks awesome.
There's so much more of that game now.
Yeah, they're up to
Galar, aren't they?
Yeah, because they put Zacian and Zamazenta in that game. And
I know I've seen Eternatus in Pokemon Quest.
Yeah.
Cube style.
Pokemon Quest is the only spin-off Pokemon game that Game Freak has made. Fun fact. They have made, obviously, other spin-offs like Tembo and Pocket Card Jockey and stuff like that. But it's the only spin-off Pokemon game Game Freak has made. They made it for this. They came out around the same time. Well, they came out before Let's Go Pikachu, Let's Go Eevee. Don't know how many people worked on it. Well, I guess you could look at the credits. But the Chinese version is not made by Game Freak. They sold it to a different company, and I don't remember what that company is called. But China has a lot of these games are exclusive to China. But whoever, bring it over here. Rename it Pokemon Quest 2. Bring it over here. Give us the full thing. I think that game is so fun, so charming. The microtransactions in that game were like completely fair. They were really easy to ignore. Otherwise, I think it was like three $15 purchase packs that you could get, and then you didn't really have to spend any more money. Like what a great game. I would love to see that. That's what I would love to see.
I agree. It's not going to happen, but I would love it as well. Like, I mean, that's the thing. It's so many years since it. They could have done it at any point. I don't think they're now going to decide that it's now. The problem is, as well as the license would mean they'd probably have to pay quite a lot to get it to release it outside of China, and they probably wouldn't make a lot of money on that. Like. Some of us would love it and would play it, but I don't think a humongous number of people would.
I think Quest would have failed if it sat on a retail shelf for like $40. I think they did it as free was like the right way to do it.
Is the Chinese version, because I think the original was on mobile and Switch, right?
Switch.
Is the Chinese one on both as well?
I think it's only mobile.
Right.
I don't think it's Switch at all. I think it's just mobile.
Well, and that I think increases my confidence they wouldn't do it, because they're not going to port it onto Switch, and I don't think they would release it without it being on Switch.
Yeah, I don't think it's coming. Well, it's what I want though.
Yeah, that's fair. We're talking about what we want, not necessarily what we think is going to happen.
It's what I want. The last thing I have, and if you guys have anything else, that's cool, is I think it was such a big deal that Pokemon partnered with Tencent to do Pokemon Unite, and Pokemon partnered with Bandai Namco. I'm not sure the order for Pokken Tournament and New Pokemon Snap. I think that we see, or I wouldn't be surprised if we see another like partnership like that for some sort of new game. Like, I would love to see Pokemon partner with like Hoyoverse, because Hoyoverse is killing it when it comes to like their games, like Genshin, Honkai Star Rail, like just completely dominating the mobile charts and what they do. Huge Chinese company. So it would be cool to see them partner with an established game brand for something new, because I think everyone liked New Pokemon Snap, and that was the same people who did Pokken Tournament. And people like Pokemon Unite.
Yeah, I mean, that's going to be the kind of thing that we just can't predict.
Yeah.
For the most part. unless they're going to continue some spin-off series and just hand it over to a new company. But it seems
well,
more
you know,
like
what's Chunsoft doing nowadays? Another mystery dungeon for us all.
Yeah, I mean, they absolutely could do something brand new. I think I'm trying to remember. Unite wasn't announced at all in a Pokemon Day.
It was announced a week after Pokemon Day. They said in Pokemon Day that we have another announcement.
That was weird. I remember
that was
that.
Weird.
Yeah, that was weird. The two.
I think that was probably just like Tencent wanting their own spotlight.
Yeah. So just as a quick point, the Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl soundtrack, I was right. It was only up for 3 months.
Yeah,
So
it was.
I think I downloaded it. I think I downloaded the first day because I was like, oh, I bet they're pulling this.
Yeah, it went up in February, went down in May of the same year. So that is what I was thinking of.
Okay. I hadn't thought of it as an app. I'd thought of it as a website.
Yeah. Web app, website, whatever. Terminology doesn't matter. But yeah, no, I double checked. Yeah, it's wild how quickly
it was real short.
that disappeared.
It's 3 months is long enough to be on the internet forever, I'm sure.
Yes.
Well, sure. But legality, Steve, we don't.
Sure.
We do not condone piracy on this podcast.
I cannot give Apple $9.99 to download it. Is what you're saying?
Yeah.
Like I can for Black 2 White 2 soundtrack.
Yeah.
All right. That I'm out of things on my little notepad. Anything else you guys want to see or that we didn't talk about?
The only other thing I can think of predictions-wise is just sort of speculating about what features from the DLC we think may be hinting at things in future games, because we have seen the DLC kind of bring in new features before. And if we think there are any things in Blueberry especially that may be implemented in future games, like Pokepark 3 with the Synchro Machine.
I don't know who made Pokepark. Side note though, because that made me think of it, Hannah. This is a really early prediction. I think Gen 10 takes place in China because of the Treasures of Ruin.
Yeah, the treasures.
Oh, interesting. Creatures developed Pokepark. Creatures Inc.
Oh, well, it took them like 10 years to make Detective Pikachu 2, so what's another?
Yeah, they don't make many games. They're mostly just doing those models.
They sure don't. There's no way. Like I was like, oh, maybe Pokepark 3, but man, the time they took to make Detective Pikachu, I don't see that happening. You got anything else, Al?
No, sorry, I filled in a Wikipedia hole there.
Okay.
I've closed the tab. We're all good.
I'm just trying to think of new features from the DLC that may be leading.
I think the Synchro Machine is the most likely thing that we're going to see. Whatever it was that they want, that vision is going to come in a future game. That's definitely not happening this year.
Yeah, probably not.
I would say the opposite. I would say Pokemon's very good at adding features and then completely scrapping them for future games.
I think you're right, but I think that there are some of the features, they never reappear, but then sometimes you see in the next version of that what they wanted to do. Like when we talked about the legends catching, like that very much feels to me like it was the Let's Go vision, but they didn't do it in that game. I also think like things like the Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire soaring, that was clearly a want to go towards an open world type game with that sort of stuff, and we didn't see it for multiple more games, but it still came back.
Soaring was a thing. Following Pokemon has been a thing that we've seen them test out in Sword and Shield DLC, and that actually showed up in the newer games. We saw
Still
the
doesn't
DLC
work that great, but
kind of expand the wild area out to the full islands that they had there, instead of just condensed into the wild area and then locked in the single point of view for the rest of the game. So that was another thing we saw with the DLC there that expanded into Scarlet and Violet and Legends even.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to find hints hints for what we might see in the future. But I think the Synchro Machine is the one that really seems like something they may build on to me.
I also wonder whether it was also a way of thinking about biomes differently. Because the way that the Blueberry Academy works compared to the other regions is very different. Like, it's very stark. Here are the biomes, whereas in other ones they kind of bleed into each other a lot more. There's not like, I mean, obviously there's the mountain with the snow, but it's not like there's a hard line that's very clear demarcation between them and stuff like that.
That kind of leads into something I'd thought about with the way they made Blueberry Academy. I don't remember whether I've said this on the podcast before. The dimensions and how close everything is together in Blueberry is unrealistic, but in a good way. Things are closer together than they could realistically be. There are paintings that do this, that just look amazing vistas, but the mountain is way closer than it ever could be in real life with real sizes of everything. Yeah, proportions. And that's not how the rest of Paldea is. Paldea is much more realistic, much more spread out. And I guess I'm curious to see whether future games will be more Blueberry, just because one of the things I remember everybody talking about with the main game of Scarlet and Violet was that Paldea wasn't super fun to explore. The traversal was something people didn't enjoy that much. And Blueberry, I think they improved it with the proportions and with the density of everything.
Except for the savannah. That place sucks. It's too
laggy. The savannah is laggy, yes.
It's the laggiest one.
Yeah.
They also added flying as well, which changes things quite a bit.
The flying kind of mixes into the Synchro Machine in my head, thinking maybe in future games they would have better traversal for all the Pokemon with the flying aspects, because you can't actually fly with flying Pokemon in the Synchro Machine.
Which is wild. You also can't jump.
Yep,
which is also
you
really
can't
weird.
actually go between the biomes or get into the thing in the center area because you can't jump. You can't get over the ledges. The doors have ledges. You need to ride Koraidon.
Yeah.
Well, all right. I think that's our episode.
Sorry. Low energy speculating.
If I saw you at Sinnoh Go Tour, it was good to meet you. If I didn't see you, sorry. Let me look at the calendar. All right, so this comes out on the 19th, so we will still have one more episode before Pokemon Day. And then maybe we'll do like a small bonus episode or something after Pokemon Day. Unsure. Maybe, again, it could be a very exciting Pokemon Day, or it could be 2017 Pokemon Day. And boy, I encourage you to maybe look at the 2017 Pokemon Day and go, wow, that was bad. Because it was.
Could be a forgettable anime-focused Pokemon Day, or a memorable anime-focused Pokemon Day. Either way, we know it's going to be an anime-focused Pokemon Day.
2017 was Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon, wasn't it? And they didn't even announce that then. That was announced in May.
They announced, Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon in May. They didn't announce it for Pokemon Day.
Yeah.
2017 was Pikachu with Party Hat for the first time in Go. Pokemon Gallery
exciting.
Figures.
Why are you making it out like it wasn't a good day then? That was great.
They weren't shiny though. That was the first time they appeared. This is literally everything they announced in 2017. Pikachu with Party Hat for the first time in Go. Not shiny because shinies were not a thing yet. The Pokemon Gallery figures were added to Pokemon Center, which were like the $30 plastic figures that were not that great. And then Pokemon movies were added to Pokemon TV, Amazon Prime Video, and Hulu. That was it. That was your 2017 Pokemon Day. That was the same year Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon came out, but they did not talk about Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon during Pokemon Day. That was right before. That was around E3, but not necessarily E3.
Wasn't the first Community Day around there sometime?
Yes, but I think they talked about that in January.
Got it. Yeah, I think it was a January one.
Hmm. So
Yeah.
I mean, I do think that they're probably that those sorts of ones are less, because like before 2013 they never did anything on Pokemon Day anyway.
2016 was the first ever Pokemon Day. Yeah.
Was it not? Did they not announce X and Y on Pokemon Day in 2013? Am I misremembering?
I don't
that?
know when X and Y was announced, but they started celebrating Pokemon Day in 2016 because that was the 20th anniversary. So before that was either like Nintendo or just like they had Pokemon announcements, but not Pokemon Day as a celebration.
It was January they announced X and Y. So yeah.
Yeah, so for some reason I like when they announced the Sword and Shield DLC, which was 2020.
Yeah.
They announced it in January.
That one was very weird because like that wasn't like, oh, we don't want to announce it yet. Why was it announced so? Yeah, like a month before Pokemon. That's weird.
Yeah, like what was it? Like it wasn't coming out till November. You couldn't wait another month. Like that was so weird. The only thing I guess is like maybe they wanted to make stockholders happy or something.
But Pokemon Day is still before the end of the financial year. Like,
yeah, well, yeah. That's why it was like
whatever. There'll be some very weird niche management reason.
I don't know. All right. Thank you, Hannah. Thank you, Al. We will be back next week. This has been another episode of the Pokemon Podcast, and we are
super effective.
Super. Don't forget that a Ceruledge card with a Pokemon Day stamp exists, and apparently you have to buy stuff to get it. Effective.